Josh, Joe, thank you very much for coming in. We try to get into these as quick as possible, so the best way in is, how did you guys first hear about Westside Barbell and come train here?
Well, basically, I had no idea what Westside Barbell was. Really no clue. And I saw them at the Arnold. My first year I went to the Arnold thing. I saw them guys benching, and I was like, damn, some strong dudes. So then come about 6 or 7 months later, I'm working out at a YMCA with my soon-to-be brother-in-law, Jim Dannison, and he introduced me to Bob Coe. And then Bob Coe then took me from the YMCA. I remember we went a year later, went to the Arnold again with him, and he took me in the back warm-up room, and I was like, holy hell, look at some of these guys back. I mean, there's lifting weight that I'd never seen in my life. When we get done there, he goes, I'm going to take you somewhere after this. I said, oh. So we take a little cruise. I'm like, damn, I don't know where we're going, but this place ain't looking a little rough.
Yeah.
So we go over to the West Side. And he goes, I just want to show you what Westside Barbell is. And you've heard the stories. No signs, blacked out windows. That ain't no joke. That's what it was. So we opened the door, and I looked in there, and I said, damn, there ain't nothing here. I mean, you had a monolift, some bracks, and a bench, and a lap machine. Lap machine. That's all that was there. I mean, it wasn't, your commercial gym or nothing. Yeah. So Bob still kept training me at YMCA. He'd come down and bench with us because he was living at Newark at the time. And I remember I had to bench 405. So he loaded up all these little plates on there. I didn't know what I was benching. Take a weight out, press it, boom. It's like 405. Then he throws me a Westside shirt. Because now you got to earn that shirt now. So then the following week, he took me to Westside on Sundays. And that's how I started my whole, like I said, I was there for like 12 to 13 years after that. So
about what, 19 is when you got in there?
I got in there about 97. That's when I think I started up there, and I left in whatever.
Never.
Yeah, I've never. I mean, I've literally been part of it since then. I mean, up till LOUIE's death, I was still, we were still close.
Yeah.
I just went out to dinner with him 2 months prior to that because we were talking about putting on that competition.
Yeah.
That last competition we put on. So that's kind of how I started. I mean, I guess I'll leave it over to Joe. So I couldn't get the West Side on a couple of Sundays. So he was training at a gym. I don't even remember what it was, somewhere in Newark. And here I come dragging in some chains that Bob Coe let me use. And this gym is like staring at me. I got a 5-gallon bucket of chains. And I'm thinking, what the hell is this guy doing? And then I saw him and Tracy. Yeah. And when I saw those guys, and just kind of started benching from there. And that's how, then I'll let Joe speak on his part. But that's how I first got in the West Side. And then, I cut my teeth. There was grown-ass men in that gym when I was there.
Yeah.
I come in 19 years old, just my eyes wide open. Bob Coe said the first time I walked in, he didn't want me to speak for a damn year there. So I didn't speak. I literally did not speak for almost a year first when I went to that gym. And I think a lot of the guys thought I had a problem or something because I didn't. I just took in so much from just watching these guys. It was insane. Today everybody talks about hardcore this, hardcore that. You got to do this. I was raised like that. That wasn't hardcore. That was normal. That was normalcy for us.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I literally grew up on seeing. At 19, you're watching these guys, ready to kill one another. I learned the intensity from there. It wasn't something that, I got to tell myself to get it. You just did it or you didn't. And if you didn't, you were out of the gym. So at that time. So that's kind of where my side at the beginning started. And then we can get into more here later if you want.
Well, I learned about Westside through Don Dameron when I was training at a local gym in town. He had a stripper girlfriend that trained at our gym, and he would come in on Friday nights, and he brought me some powerlifting USAs, to show me what Westside was about, let me read some articles, and then he started helping me out with some training stuff, ideas and stuff I could do in the gym. Went down. Did a meet with Matt Smith before Matt had came to Westside, and Matt Smith kind of made me and Josh, we were kind of like enemies and didn't know it because they hated each other. And because Josh was training with Bob and them, and then Matt was trying to bench. I think you're both trying to bench 500.
Trying to bench 500 at Circleville.
Yeah. And it was because I was training with Matt, but I knew Josh. I went to high school with him, so it was like, I was like, I don't know why we don't like each other, but I guess I guess I got to be against him because you're my teammate now. You know what I mean? So it was, and then Don, after I did a one meet that I want a meet in high school, I did pretty good at that meet, and he said he wanted to take me somewhere, and he brought me up here on a Friday to Demorest, and I was just overwhelmed with how crazy it was. I mean, the intensity level in there was. It's undescribable, really. I mean, you're not gonna. You can talk about it, but unless you was in Demorest at one point and actually trained there and felt it, or just came and visited there and felt it, you can't describe. Like it was.
It's nuts. It was absolutely.
And I was only like 18 years old, 17 years. I was 17, and I was just like completely overwhelmed. Like, holy shit, this is insane.
Did you just know when you walked in the door that this was something different?
Oh, yeah.
I knew at breakfast.
Yeah.
When Don took me to breakfast, I knew at breakfast, these dudes ain't fucking around. They wouldn't talk to each other.
Yeah.
They're eating breakfast and none of them was speaking. I was like, this is nuts. Like, why are they not talking? Don's like, yeah, we don't talk to each other. And then he took me over. I watched a workout, talked to Lou a little bit. He explained all the stuff, like about the board, how the board worked, what it took to get on there. Told me what everybody had lifted in that crew at that time. I remember it was Dave Tate and ESKILL, Chuck, Don, Lou. There was a couple of Tom Waddle was still here at the time. And then I can't remember who else was there. Danny Blankenship was actually here. He was in high school. I think he was a high school kid then too. And, he was like, I talked to Lou, and then he asked if, he basically had said, told me, basically said I could work out if I wanted to, but I didn't bring anything with me to train because Don didn't tell me to. So I was like, oh man. And I told him, I said, man, I don't know if I'm ready for a place like this or not. This is a little much, And he hit me real hard in the leg, and he said, well, I got a feeling about it. I think you'll be back. I do think you'll come back. And then like over the years, like Josh and Matt had their issues, like their battle going on. And then, like he said, he come into the one gym because he was coming in to do speed work on a Sunday, and me and a friend of mine from Kentucky that I trained with at the time, we was in there benching, and then we started doing speed work with him, and then just one thing led to another, and then he decided he was going to do a push-pull.
Yeah, because for the first year and a half I was at Westside, I was just a bench-only guy. Okay. I was one of those guys, man, at first,
Yeah, he was going to do the push-pull.
So I go to that first push-pull, and he jumped in and started training with me, and so we put a training cycle together because I was going to Westside majority of the time through the week, squat Fridays and things, but there were some days I couldn't do it because I just lived in Newark and I was going to school, and just so we worked out together there, and we trained at a place in Newark, and then one thing led to another. So I let him know that if he does well at this meet, I'm gonna take him to Westside. I'm gonna put my name out there. Because the first time, I'd asked anybody to go up there. I never asked Lou or nobody if I could bring anybody up. So we go to that meet. He kicks ass down there. I go out. So I've been this bench only guy for nearly a year and a half. So I go out there. My very first deadlift, we're doing the same thing. It's like we're out
every Monday workout.
Yeah, everything's good on the deadlift.
Like I'm thinking, there's no way he's going to outpull me like crazy. Is what I was thinking.
Yeah, so this is a good story. So I get up there and, oh man, I'm doing an opening deadlift, and I'm like, hell yeah, I'm gonna go out here and rip this thing. I think it was supposed to be 585.
It was
just the easy opener, get in the meet, just to get in. Already benched, doing that. So I go up there and I grab hold of this son of a bitch, and I start pulling and pulling. And I'm thinking, holy shit! I said I will never hear the end if I miss my opening deadlift. I might get kicked out of this gym. I pull that thing finally. They say down. Like, thank God. I look over at Bob Cohen and I'm like, I'm done. I ain't got nothing left in me. Well, the next guy goes up, doesn't even budge it off the floor. And we're like, what the hell? So they look out there saying he's pulling the same weight I was supposed to open with. 70-pound misload. Yeah. So I ended up pulling 655, and it was supposed to be 585. And I never even thought I could pull that, at that time. And it was just a total misload. So I'm just like, oh, thank God! Now I can at least get a little bit of respect from the rest of the guys at the gym. Because man, if I'd have missed my opener at 585, I would have never heard the end, you know. But because I was just at the bench guy, and I'm thinking, man, but then we found out it was a 70-pound miss, which kind of a little sweat off the brow, you know.
Well, because Tony Beach missed it right after you.
Yeah.
And Sonny was training up here then, and then he was like. He was one of Tony's training partners, and he realized he counted it up and realized it was misloaded. So then they asked Josh, they're like, you want to drop back down and repeat your opener, or do you want to take your 55? He's like, I'm out.
I'm out. Cut that. I'm out. So that was that was a real experience. And then I'll let Joe explain like what he did at that meet, you know, that first meet we took him to, and I helped him there. And
I forgot my briefs.
Yeah.
Forgot my shoes.
Oh, yeah, it was a mess.
What else did I forget?
That was pretty much, I know the briefs was
my belt. I forgot my belt.
Yeah.
I had everything, because he told me what I got to do is lay everything out on your couch and then put it like each lift, lay each lift out on the couch. So everything you need for the squat, everything you need for the bench, everything you need for deadlifting, put all of that together in each thing on the couch. So I had 3 couch cushions, so I had it all sitting there. Well, I left the belt, my chucks, and my groove briefs. So I had to do my squat just in a suit because I didn't have any briefs. Nobody had anything down there. And Mike Hill gave me a pair of chucks to squat in.
Yeah.
Because I didn't. And Gritter found me a belt from somebody. I don't even know who that belt was belonged to.
No idea.
And then all I know is I pulled 660.
Yeah, he outpulled me.
I outpulled him by 5 pounds because I had to get to total 1950.
Yep.
And it was I didn't even intend for it to be, but I don't even know who called it.
I don't even think it was. Grit was running his mouth to us because I'd asked him before, if he does well at this meet, I'm going to see if he can come to Westside.
Yeah.
So they all kind of knew, and I know they were busting his balls.
Yeah, Gritter was on me pretty hard.
He was on him hard, and I knew they were going to take him because he'd done really well.
Yeah.
And but I knew how Grit and them guys would just get in your ear. I mean, God.
It's almost like they're trying to mentally break you to see what you can take.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Just to see if you're going to cave or not.
And he did well. And like I said, then after that, we pretty much trained at Westside all the time from there on out. We were there nonstop.
I was telling him earlier, like, that we only benched at home because we had so many guys bench.
Yeah.
And a crew, the Newark crew guys, we had so many guys benching.
Yeah, that's another story. I mean, I don't know if we want to get into that.
Go into it.
Honestly, there was 3, this is back when 700-pound benches was big.
Yeah.
And
there was only 6 up here at the time.
Yeah.
Five.
Is that what it was?
When you and Tim benched it.
So Tim benched 7, Tim Harold benched 7, I benched 7, and Joe benched 7. So we got 3 700-pound benchers in this little crew from Newark, Ohio. I know LOUIE used to call us the Newark Boys or something. That's what we were known as. But, we somehow figured, we did exactly everything. There was a couple things we didn't do quite the West Side. We changed a little bit, but, that's the only thing we knew. It's the only thing I knew was train West. I had no idea how to train any other different than Westside.
Yeah.
So anybody I helped or trained or helped, that's what they did. Straight from the build up, So we had, some people were coming to us from up here, coming from Westside down to us and training with us just to learn if there was secrets. We didn't have any secrets.
Yeah.
We just trained balls to the wall, man. I didn't know. You just load up a bunch of bands and chains, and that's kind of what we did. We pushed each other. We hated each. That's the thing nowadays. I don't know if it's like that.
Well, we started using more shirts. I think that's what we just started doing more shirt
and
work.
Training partners, dude. I wanted to kick his ass. Like I literally would fight him. Like I would be like, "You son of a bitch!" All my guys
He's hit me a couple times.
Yeah, like all these things. We were going to fight. Like honest to God, it was. But as soon as you're done working out, dude, it's cool. You're all good.
We go to dinner.
Yeah, go grab a bite to eat afterwards. But during that hour and a half to 2 hours, it was on. It was talking shit. Joe wasn't very good.
I'm terrible at.
I'm pretty good at talking a lot of trash, but
I get so far and then I want to punch him.
Yeah, exactly. And then we had Big Tim, that big old moose. You couldn't do anything with him at the time. Weighing damn near 460 pounds or whatever he was. He was just a
484 when we first.
He was just a big man. That's another funny story we could get into, how we met Tim Harold. Jeez.
Yeah, I remember seeing the Westside tapes.
Yeah.
And he was the size of the monolith.
Yeah.
He's a monster.
So Tim comes to us. My brother-in-law, Jim Dennison, meets these 2 kids at the farm store because they wanted to buy chains. He says, "Hey, my brother-in-law, you know, you ought to he trains at Westside, man. You know what you're doing. So they come to Newark, and they start training with us. Tim was, I don't know, they were both just literally out of, him and Zach Cole were just out of high school.
They're like 17,
Yeah,
18
literally
years
got
old.
out of high school. So, you know, I would come up here, train at 4 o'clock, drive back, train those guys at night, and then go home. And so Tim, he's benching with us one day, and he says, I'm doing a meet at the state fair. I'm like, no, I said I did a state fair. One Bob Code made me do a state fair meet one time. They're not bad. Well, he goes. They can't weigh him in because he's so big. So they take. We didn't know West. I don't care. No, this is before we even knew anything about it.
Yeah.
So he goes and does this meet. Comes back, tells me he benches
500.
500, benches 500. And I'm like, you're full of shit, dude. I said, you can't even bench 315 pounds.
He got stapled to a 3-board the week before the state fair meet with 365.
Yeah. We're
And
like,
a shirt.
there is no
Yeah.
way you bench 500. Swear to God. So he breaks out this old school video
big
camera.
RCA. Yeah.
Breaks it out, shows me it. And I'm like, holy hell. He did bench 500. I thought he was lying all day long to us. So, you know, so they're, you know, so we can kind of go back. So over at Demorest, you know, me and Joe, and we trained at 4 o'clock on Mondays, and then we benched, and then he went in the morning crew squat, and I squatted at night. But that's kind of how we got going there for a long time. And, you know, there was a lot of training partners I went through over there for years, man. So when I first started, I hate how I keep jumping back and
you're
forth.
good.
I'm sorry. So the main bench was in front of the black window. So when I get up there, very first, you know, I'm up there first time, we got Rob Fuzner, world record holder, George Howard record holder, Kenny Patterson record holder, Jimmy Ritchie was in that group, Lou was in that group, and I'm like, son of a bitch, man. My goal of all time was just, I want to bench on that bench with those guys. That's all I wanted to do. If I could just get on that bench with those guys. Well, I'm up there for 6 or 7 months. Lou asked me to come bench with him. Dude, I think I'm like, hell yeah. So I get to finally bench with these guys. So Lou's like, I got an idea for you. So this is kind of when we first tried bands. I don't know if he wasn't used to somebody with my long arms or something, because he's like, I don't know, we're going to experiment with these things. So the first time I take a bar out, I bust my freaking teeth out, you know? So, you know, whatever. So we get it all set back up. So I actually made that I call it, I mean, very often do you get to train with 3 world record holders at the same time.
Yeah.
And those guys were phenomenal. And I learned so much from Kenny Patterson and just watching George Halbert and those guys. And I still use some of their training with guys I help now. But so just that was the goal, was to get on that bench. You know, I finally made that bench, and it was like, I don't know, my Mount Rushmore type of thing. Like those guys were like the elite. So that was really something. And then over time, you know, then we had the 4 o'clock crew, and that's where I trained with ESKILL and Bob Coe and Grit. Those guys are who I cut my teeth under. I mean, they broke me down. One thing I did find out when we first get the Westside back then, you couldn't show fear. It didn't matter if you knew you couldn't take that weight, you crawled under it. And if you didn't show a fight to it, you're out.
Yeah.
You had to show that intensity, that you had balls. I think why I stayed around so long, I was never one of the best, but I was always there to help. I always trained hard and always pushed people. But I was never scared of a weight.
Yeah.
So I think that's why I stuck around. Joe, on the other hand, you know, he was the top of the top. Me, I was teetered sometimes there, but I never was up there at the top. So
Were you both in different crews or mixing in and out between morning and evening?
We trained nighttime, Monday nights together because of my work. I couldn't get here in the mornings. And then I squatted on Friday mornings because I only worked Monday through Thursday. And then once our job schedule switched at work, and they switched us to a Tuesday to Friday schedule, so then I was squatting in, so Monday nights and Fridays with him at the end right there when we came here.
Yeah.
But on Demorest, I was Monday nights and Friday mornings.
yeah, and then we benched together on
At home
Wednesdays and
with
Sundays
Sundays.
in Newark.
What was Gritter like?
What was he like?
Yeah.
You want to hear a story?
He made me puke the very first time I was here.
made
My
him
very
puke the
first workout.
time. Had a kid in there, right? This is a funny. So we got this young kid in there. I don't even know he's a visitor.
Yeah.
So, Grit's running his jibs, and everybody's running their mouth, Tells this kid he's got a Michigan shirt on. I don't know if you know Grit, he's a huge Ohio State fan. Would actually rent a TV at the meets at a hotel so he could just have the Ohio State game in the warm-up room. So anyway, this kid keeps telling him to take off the Michigan shirt. This kid's just, he's a young kid. He don't like it. I don't know. He's kind of.
He thinks Gritter's kidding.
Yeah. He's like, I told you to take off that damn Michigan shirt. Kid doesn't do it. Goes up, and I don't think he really meant to do this. So he grabs the back of the shirt and kind of pulls on it, but the whole damn shirt just rips off.
Pulls it right off.
Pulls it right off this kid. And, this kid's eyes is enormous. And so he's like, oh. So he made it up to him and gave him a Westside shirt. So I guess that was a good thing. But Grit, man, he motivated the hell out of us. I mean, like I said, him and Bob Coe, man, I have to give everything to those. I mean, Lou also, but those guys worked with me the most. So I give them ultimate respect. And
well, that first meet I did, Gritter come up behind me and he basically just told me flat out, "You think you're going to come train at Westside? You're going to pull something. You better show me you got something, or I don't want you nowhere in my fucking building." Basically telling me that I'm like, okay, man, dude, I'm going to give it a go. I don't know. I'm not used to this, because I'm training at a local gym in town. And with him, I was used to, he was pretty intense to train with. Yeah. But, it was just different. Gritter was a little, and then so I pulled it and he goes, "No, you didn't do too bad." Yeah. Kind of like, you didn't do good, but you didn't do too bad. And then I said, "Well, I got to get 2,000 to get my elite." And he goes, "Well, what weight class are you?" And I said, "Well, I weighed in at 237. I'm 242s. And he goes, "Well, elite's not 2,000." Because I worked with a guy that him and Gabe Ryder had like a huge rivalry, and I always heard about Gabe and this 2,000-pound total they were chasing. So I thought that was the elite total. And he come over and he went and asked Chuck what elite was at 42s. He goes, "It's 1890. He come back over, so I totaled 1950, and he goes, "You just totaled elite today." Yeah. I was like, "Really? I thought it was 2,000. He's like, "Why would you think that?" I said, "Some guy I work with told me this, Yeah. But then we came the very first Monday I came to Westside to work out. I can't remember what we did, main exercise, something low box with a red bar. Gritter loved to do that.
They tried to kill us.
And then
they tried to break us.
We go out and drag sled in the parking lot, and we're dragging. And they told me to go first because I was the new guy. So I went, and you drag down to the end of the parking lot and back. And, and it was, I don't know how it was. It was pretty decent. Pull, it wasn't too bad.
Nothing extreme. Not like here where you walk around the building or anything.
We were supposed to do 5 trips. Well, I started. So everybody got done, and I started taking my belt off, and Gritter goes, "You got one more fucking trip." And I was like, I started. I'm done. I did 5. And he goes, "Are you calling me a liar?" And he got right in my face and started screaming at me. And I was like, "No, dude, I'm good." I said, "I just thought I went first." So I thought, he's like, "You're done when I say you're done." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh, I got it, man." I strapped back up. I pulled it down. Everything, my body was dying. I literally felt like I was pulling on rubber bands. I get back to the thing. I remember going in, and I sat down on the bench by the window for like 30 seconds, and I was like, "I'm going to puke. This is it. I'm going to throw up." So I leave the door, and I walk out past the pizza shop and down around the corner, and I'm leaning over the these little railing by the stairway, and I'm blowing chunks over the side of this into this grass, and this crackhead that lived in these apartments had came out of Haji's with a 40 and a pack of cigarettes. And he comes over and he's like, smacks me on the back. He's like, "Buddy, I've been there before. It's going to be okay.
You're going to be okay.
You're going to make it." And I'm like, "I don't think you've been anywhere I've been, but whatever, And I go back in, but I was, I still had to do hypers. I still had to do abs. I was just throwing up like crazy just and then we had to finish. And he basically told me, "You don't finish, you're out. You don't come back." And I was like, "Oh, that's."
Yeah, one thing that I noticed kind of when we moved over here, we were on Demorest, everybody did it together. Yeah. It didn't matter. You didn't stop. Like if somebody else, you did it. If it was, hypers or good mornings, you didn't pick and choose what you wanted to do. Yeah. You did what everybody else did.
The group.
And then whatever accessories, you all did the same accessories too. And there wasn't like, "Oh man, sissy and getting out of stuff." You did it or you were out. Yeah. I saw many guys get kicked out because they weren't at the gym at 8:30 on a Sunday morning.
Really?
They locked the door and boom, you weren't in there, you're out.
For good or for that session?
Out. Well, I shouldn't say. I saw guys out for good. I saw guys just get out a couple times. So I was never, man, I was so petrified. I was like there 45 minutes. It'd be hungover as hell, but I'd still be there because I ain't getting, I'd earned that. I got there, I'm like, I'm never going to lose this. And it was just, and Demorest, like I said, it was just in a different atmosphere, just a different culture, almost,
Well, Monday nights we always had our whole group would do the same thing, and we'd split into teams.
Yeah, it was
and whoever team lost had to buy pizza from next door.
They'd pound on the door or pound on the wall, and your pizza was done.
Okay.
Yeah, they'd smack the wall.
Walk out, you go over and tell them what you want, and they come by and then they'd wipe the wall.
Meatball subs. That was what Ritter loved, and that's
you
what,
get a pizza with meatballs.
Then he ended up paying for half the time. I mean, that's just what he did. He did. We'd say, okay, and Ritter would be like, I already paid for it. Old cranky bastard he was.
When we had him and Bob in, he said he didn't care how strong you were, but he cared how hard you trained.
Yep.
And if you didn't think you were training as hard as you could, you were gone.
Work ethic, man. That's what you had to have. I mean, I can't tell you, when I was first young, man, I know them guys legitimately tried to break me. And I'm like, sons of a bitch, you won't break me. Now, I might not be able to move for 3 days after this, but I'll tell you what, I'm not gonna break.
What would they do? What were some of the things they tried to do?
Well, so Chuck, we were one day, I'll never forget this, on a Wednesday. I was up there benching with us because I also benched in the morning there for some time on Wednesdays. And we were doing these, what are those called, where you lean on a bench and take the dumbbells over. The dumbbell pullovers to your chest.
Yep.
And I remember he just literally legitimately made me go until I couldn't do anymore. And I mean, I had that similar bench dumbbell bouncing off my face and stuff. But I'm like, I'm not giving up. And he just we got another set. I mean, I'm sure he doesn't remember this, but I remember. Now, like after that day, for some reason, I started getting a little more respect. And I don't know, because, I mean, I legitimately could not, I pull that, I mean, I'm like, this thing's going to break my damn nose because I'm going to drop it on my face, but I wasn't going to stop.
Yeah.
So that, just those type of things, they would just push you. And it was kind of cool. Like, I love it now.
Yeah.
Because, and guys I've helped and trained, I've pushed them the same way, and I was really sick one time, and I'd had these kidney problems, and I was just got out of the hospital. And I remember coming up here on a Friday with Nick Showman, and I was just helping some of the glues, like, get over there and help those guys, and I'm like, I'm all lean, I can't, feeling like shit. Well, just the way I trained, it was like Grit and Bob and them guys, and Lou, I'm on these guys. I don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
I'm busting their balls, and those guys were like, damn, man. They go over to Nick and they're like, man, that dude's intense as shit. I'm like, not really. I mean, that's just normal. Like, that was just, that's just how we came up. It was just intensity. We could turn it off and turn it on when we needed to.
Yeah.
For that hour, I mean, mine started at 45. It took almost an hour to drive up here to each training. It would start as soon as I left my house. I'd start getting this mindset.
Would you be nervous before you got in, or amped up, or how would you be?
I didn't. Well, I wanted to win. I mean, that's what we all did. Didn't matter. So that's the reason strong guys, stronger guys, weaker guys, we went by PR to PR. So it doesn't matter, if a guy does, a pin pull with 850 pounds and the next guy might only pull 700. We go in there and find out who's everybody's PRs, and Grit and them guys all knew. That's one thing I learned from them a long time ago. I started learning my PRs of all the guys I trained with. Like, I would know what they're good at. So they couldn't pull no bullshit on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we get in there and you pull a deadlift, or say you've been pulling pin 3. This guy over here he might pull 200 pounds less than you, but he out PR'd you on that pin that day. He wins, and he can run his mouth to you. So it used to piss us off. I mean, but you started getting that. I almost got like an anger, not a nervous, the anger.
Yeah.
I wanted to go up there and just, and I know Joe was the same way. You just get so like, man, you just wound for sound, man. As soon as you come through that door, it was just, you turned it on.
Yeah.
And it's like as soon as you just kept putting a little bit of lighter fluid on it, you just turned it on and flared and just got that emotion. I noticed a lot back then, a lot of emotion was involved, a lot of intensity and emotion was involved. I mean, you'd see guys crying, and I mean, I can't tell you. And what's so funny is by running those last few meets we did over there, man, I seen fights in the warm-up room. I'd see dudes knock the shit out of one another. Like in a warm-up room, you're like, what the, I'm like, holy shit, man.
Yeah.
It just, that was the intensity. That was the fight, And that I don't know if that's, I know guys are just as intense now as they were back then. It's just, I don't know. You just don't see it as much. I don't know.
Was it because it meant so much to be there, or that was you just didn't want to let yourself down in front of the people? What gave you that drive?
I mean, for me, it was getting there personally. I mean, it was once I knew the history, like what Westside was really about. Once I actually learned about it a little bit, and then actually getting to go there and like understanding the, what it represents to be in there. It's just I don't know. It was almost like being in a gang.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was.
When you walk in a meet, man. When we first walk in a meet, man, we're big as shit, man. And they'd see the Westside logo, T-shirts on, or the coats.
Yeah.
And you just see people like, oh shit, let me get out of their way, man. Oh, shit, you walked in as a gang. Boom. I mean, you just rolled in. It was like Hell's Angels.
I remember Chuck fought in a tough man thing out in Newark, a fighting thing one time, and we were still on Demorest, and I think it was early WPO, and we was in there working out, and I think him and Jill was trying to have a baby at the time or something like that, and he wasn't training as hard, and he was down a little bit in size, and he'd been doing a lot of fighting stuff, and I was talking about these fights we were going to go watch, and he's like, "Where are these at?" And I told him, and he goes, "You think I could get in them?" And I said, "Well, they're tomorrow, so I don't know." So at the time back then, you don't have like the texting and stuff. I had a flip phone, so I called the lady that owned our gym. Her boyfriend was the one putting them on. I called her and I asked her if she thought she could get a hold of Mark and see if he could do these, and he called me back and he was like, "Well, he's got to be here to weigh in today by 2:00. I can't have him weigh in anytime after that. I got to be done by 2:00." And I was like, I told Chuck, he goes, "I'll be there." So he followed me home from the gym that day, and we went and weighed him in, and then he did. But when the next night on the Saturday night of the fights, like everybody from Westside came to watch Chuck fight.
Yeah.
And it was like Big Mike and Rob, Kenny,
like 20 or 25 people there.
Wow.
Yeah, Kenny Patterson was still here at the time, and he was.
Yeah,
they all come in with the coats on, and they were standing across the back room of this armory,
just wearing Westside Barbell. Like it was like so intimidating.
Yeah. And like I knew all these people now, so I was just like, "Oh, this is hilarious."
Yeah.
It was very intimidating. I think a lot of like for us, you didn't want to let your training partners down. You're in there pushing each other. I mean, you hang out with your training partners more than you do your own family majority of the time, And I didn't want to let those guys down, man. They're in there busting their balls with me, And even if you weren't getting ready for a meet, say you had, because we always kind of did different meets, so we could go help each other. And Grit was always there to help, and Bob was there to help, and all the guys were there to help. But you didn't want to let those guys down, man. And you train so damn hard all the time, and it was guts. You just put so much into it, and I never want to let those guys down. I never wanted to let the name Westside down, but the guys that you train with, man, that's who the hell they're in there with you, man. They're busting their balls too, and like I said, some of us weren't doing the same meets at the time, so you had to be on your game. You're pushed so I'd have to push Joe, man. I might not be getting ready for anything, but me and him were bang on the bench. I had to push him. And I felt it was my responsibility.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my job. I'm not getting ready for anything. I got to push him, or any other guy. If they're getting ready for meet, man, I got to push that dude. I'm a shitty training partner if I'm not pushing this dude to get higher.
Yeah.
If he's down here, man, what good am I? I'm another, nowadays it's how many likes you get, or, I'm there for that guy that I'm working out with. You're from the fight game. I'm sure it's the same way a lot in that, man. If a guy's in there just training half-assed with a guy, he's not making that fighter any better. As a lifter, if I'm not pushing myself to try to push him, what good am I as a partner? I'm no good, man.
Well, like I know for me, like, and I know anybody, they may not want to, but you always wanted to get Lou to be impressed. No matter what you were doing, you wanted to get his, that approval from him that you did something that, and it was always like, and he's never going to give it to you ever, because he knew the first time he did, then you're going to go backwards.
That was the thing. There was no compliments. Never, at least when I was there was no compliment. There was no, hey, you might get a good job once in a while, or like, you got more in the tank. That's what you usually got. Hey man, that was decent, but man, you got more than The only couple compliments I remember getting is when I benched 700 because Lou told me something because he gave out money for the first
700 for
and
700.
and I like got in there and on that. And then when I squatted 900, Chuck came up and said, "Good squat." That's the only compliments I pretty much got, and I was cool with that.
Yep.
I'm good with that. I mean, I don't. If you're in this sport, you don't need somebody patting you on the back all the time. Hey, good job, man. Good job, man. All the time. You're weak. If I gotta have a guy sit there and tell you, if I gotta sit there and tell Joe all the time, like, dude, you're looking strong today, brother.
I told him about my 405 in a warm-up room.
I did do that one time with him.
that was the medal. I was just like, oh my God, there's no way I'm benching anything today. That was the heaviest thing. And he's like, dude, look good.
Yeah. Sometimes that's what you got to do as a partner. You got to like.
Well, Bob Coe was the mastermind at that.
Yeah.
Like he
He'd make you feel like you could lift anything.
Yeah,
yeah, man.
What was some of the things he would do to get you going?
He would get in my head just like, I'll never forget this one time. My grandpa just passed away. And I forget what I don't even remember now, but he got in my ear and he goes, your grandpa's looking at you right now. You don't want to fail that. Do you want to fail him? And I'm like, motherfucker. I got tears and shit in my eyes. I'm like, shit, man. I'm going out here. I don't even think it was about deadlift. I think I needed a deadlift or something to get what I wanted to total. And he would just get up in your ear, And, he was just a good motivator. I mean, he always looked out for the guys that he wanted to work with.
Yeah.
Over what I would say that you could tell the guys that were vested in you because they would talk to you. They would help you. After so long, if somebody wasn't talking to you, they're done with you, man. You're old news to them. So
because he got me at the APF seniors, I was going up against Travis Mash. Travis Mash had just beat Chuck at 220 at the Arnold, and then he had posted some stuff. Because back then it wasn't really social media. I don't even know what it was online, but because I didn't really. I've never been into
Powerlifting USA was a big thing. You waited once a year. Once a year, you
for your top 100.
You'd see the top 100 come out in your weight class, man. That's
but
all you waited for.
He had said something in an article about how he took over the 220s and dominated that, and he's going to move up to 42, and there ain't nobody in the world going to touch him, and all this, and made this big spectacle about this, and I had no clue that any of this went on because I don't get on the internet, so I never, and all I remember is Chuck kept telling me, training for the APF seniors, is you got to take him out. You got to take him out, and I'm like, okay. I mean, I'm gonna, I'm like, I get it. I mean, I'm gonna try to beat him, and he's like, no, you got to destroy him. And I was like, I didn't really understand what he meant by this. But then when we got to the meet and we started warming up, and the intensity, because we're warming up all together because we're lifting in the same thing, but then it hit me, like he took one of our guys out. Now it's my turn, So the rest of the day was just like Chuck had explained to me one time before, like you got to find one guy when you're at a meet, and you just got to make him your enemy for the day. He has to be, and it'll drive you all day long. And, I realized right then and there, because Chuck just kept talking to me. And when he ended up out squatting me a little bit, and then I outbenched him by a little bit. So it kind of evened us out, and then it was going to come down to the deadlifts, and he looked a little more gassed than I was. But Bob Coe, he come over, because I would never sit down when I pulled. I'd always pace. Mm-hmm. I was always a pacer. I never could sit down because I always get really, I get very emotional when I pull, and I'm very over the top animated sometimes, and it causes me to get hurt, which I've learned to calm down a little bit. But he was, at the time, all of Mash's guys had left him to go like to the casino or whatever, so he had no help. And Dave Tate, we were both lifting under Elite. We were both using metal and stuff, and Dave was sponsoring all of our gear, my gear, his gear, and Dave was helping him, up by the chalk box, and he's sitting up there, and Bob come back and he goes, "Look at these motherfuckers. Dave's a Westside guy, and now he's turned on you, and he's helping Travis. He's helping the enemy he's trying to help him beat you." And I mean, everything he's saying, it appears to be true, because this is actually happening. And I'm like, man, fuck that. I'm like, why would Dave do that? Why would Dave turn his back on me like that? He's a Westside guy. And he's like, yeah, I mean, he's helping the guy that, we're here to take out because he took Chuck out and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And I'm like, I mean, I'm sweating right now talking about it, literally. And he, he had me so fired up that I walked up to take my opener because I opened at 766 and he opened at 771. So he was going to pull after me, or I opened at 738 and he opened at 751 is what it was. And I'm chalking my hands and I'm just staring at him in this chair and he won't look at me. And I'm looking at him in this chair and I'm like, man, you want to talk shit about me, motherfucker? You better look me in the face. And I'm getting pissed. And Bob's like, just giving me enough. And I go out and I rip my opener and I go back and I'm pacing around madder and madder. And he gives me a little more, gets me so fired up. I go up. Well, then I was going to jump from 38 to right to 804. I was there to pull 800. And Todd Brock actually was like, what are you doing? He's like, no, you're going to pull this. You're going to pull 66 because you're going to make him have to pull 90 something, 96 or whatever it was in kilos because he ain't got it in him. And then he's going to lose to you at this meet. And then you can try to pull 804. I was like, I'm going to pull 804 right now and just bury his ass. He goes, no, you're going to do this because this is how you play the game. The numbers is what we're here to get and we're going to beat him. And then you're going to PR and then you're going to, so I took 66. I pull it just as easy as I did my opener. I'm even madder than I was the first time. And then he got me so mad for 804, I pulled my hamstring. But I literally almost tried to fight Travis at the chalk bowl.
Yeah, there was.
I was calling him out at the chalk bowl. And then I pull my hamstring and I'm in the back trying to get this deadlift suit off. And here's this guy, he's helping me get my suit off. And then we're talking after the meet, and then Bob and I told him, I said, "Well, dude, why would you talk shit about me? I'm getting and I'm heated with him a little bit." And Bob's like, he got Westsided today, Bob." I'm like, "What?"
It was.
And Bob goes, "It's just mind games, Joe. It's just, I'm like, "Oh my god."
Well, I can tell you when I was young. When I was young and I was over there was these guys talking shit about Lou when he's going out there to squat. I'm sitting up there with Don Dameron and a couple other guys, and Don Demorest says, "Stand up, big boy." I'm like, well, I don't know what's going on. He goes, just stand up. So, Don stands up. I stand up. I see he starts mouthing this guy. So I'm like, I just do the whole stare down thing, And one thing about being tall, like 6'6", you just kind of look out. And boy, them guys shut their mouth about Lou instantly, man. I was like, damn, hell yeah. I was like, hell yeah. After that, I was like, that's, got the Westside stuff on. And, back then it was a lot harder to get the T-shirts and things. Yeah. So, you'll hear the old guy, I guess I'm kind of one of those old guys too, had to earn that shit.
Yeah.
Had to earn it. Had to earn anything that said Westside on it,
There's a story where a Westside shirt ended up at a Goodwill store and a kid got it. I'm not sure who it was, but saw him wearing it and he stopped the car and took it off the kid.
Yeah.
And said at that time you had to earn that shirt.
I believe that. I mean, that's just
that's probably Don.
Yeah.
Honestly,
there was a lot.
That's something Dameron would do.
Man, I tell you how intense it was sometimes. So Jimmy Ritchie, dude, scared me at first. For some reason, he liked me. I don't know. God, as a young kid, or I don't know. He was great to me, and so I'm going out to bench 600. He hadn't benched 600 yet. There was this whole race. There was a whole group of us trying to bench 600 at the time. I go out there. He's all jacked up, getting on me, getting me fired up. Boom! Smacks me upside the head. Oh, shit. All right. Fuck, I'm going out. I'm going nuts. I go out there, don't remember shit. I'm like, I jump up. I'm like, man, I bench that shit. They're like, dude, you went to sleep. He literally almost knocked me out. I don't even know how I got to the bench. I don't even know how I got under the thing. And he's like, damn, man, I thought you had that. And, a couple weeks later, he's like, you know why I didn't want you to bench that 600, right? Because I wanted to bench it before you. I was like, you son of a... Well, I didn't want to say that because I was like, man, I don't know if I want my ass whipped. But, yeah, so that was just kind of some of the stuff that, those stories were good. Those, I know, these, they're stories, but they're real. I mean, people, when I tell some stories, they're like, ain't no way that stuff. I'm like, dude, yeah, I saw a dude legitimately in the middle of doing our speed work, get up, go over and knock a dude out, get back in the bench, never missed the rotation of it. Legitimately, that's God's honest truth because it was over a bench shirt. I'm like, damn.
He didn't bring his bench shirt back.
Because he didn't bring his bench shirt back. And boom, knocked just...
The dude had torn a tricep and had surgery.
Yeah.
He had torn a tricep and had surgery, but he forgot to bring the bench shirt back to the gym.
Yeah. He just goes over, boom, comes back over.
So because he didn't bring it in, he's in a sling and gets knocked out cold.
Starts talking trash, and I'm like, dude, we're in the middle of things, and I won't drop names, but they hears him talking, and he just gets up from the bench, like in the middle. I'm like, just, because we go in this, there was no rest when speed bench, and it was like one after another. You didn't stop. And he just walked over, boom, knocked the dude out, comes back over, lays down, does a set with us. And I'm like, no, well, but damn.
That happened.
That just went down. So, yeah, there was a lot of that stuff. I mean, intensity. I have my moment, kind of embarrassing, but, me and Zach Cole got into it in here one time. So, that was.
That's in the book, I think.
Yeah, Lou, of all things, Lou remembers that one. So.
Yeah, he slapped the snot right out of him.
Who was there? Anyone who was more intense than others? Was there anyone who led the charge of intensity that you had to live up to?
No, there was Chuck. I mean, Chuck was intense. I mean, that's what everybody. I mean, that's just what everybody. I don't know. I just think everybody had it back then. I don't know. I feel like
Chuck was a different level for sure. And I mean, because I trained with him so much, I think it kind of made me more that way than, but I never really understood how to control it. Yeah. I would get a little too over the top with it.
Yeah, you get overwhelmed.
Like I got really good at learning how to turn it on and turn it off. But, like I can be training now and, just for a couple sets, flip the switch and then be back to normal quick. But, it
comes with age. But I just think, like I
was so young that Chuck was just so crazy.
You learn.
Man.
Like like us, we were young when we started over here. I was 19. You probably came over when you were 20.
In my 20s.
It's a learned thing. You see these dudes and that's what you did. I mean, I didn't have anybody, teach me.
Well, and the thing is now,
do this. It was just, you saw these guys doing it, and then all of a sudden you did it. Like it was ingrained in you, I guess. I don't know. And
like guys I trained with and have trained with, after being here, it was like when we had like Tim and Zach and stuff like that, we had they followed because they were younger. Yeah. So it was like we could keep up that intensity then. But nowadays, like guys I train with, like currently or whatever, so they just don't have the same push. Yeah. I mean, it's just not.
And that might be some of our. I can't train like I used to. I know that for a fact. I think it's just the culture you're in too. Yeah. Those guys. Like I came in with those older guys. So I learned that.
Well, everybody has feelings now.
Yeah. Then he did it. He came along and he saw all of that. It's just a kind of a. It's our. I think we all have it. It's just, can you bring it out? And now it's just like, everybody gets their feelings hurt. And
everybody has.
And man, if you'd have been like that, when I was over 20 some years ago, I'd have got the shit knocked out of me if I'd have came in. Man, wait, don't say that to me, man. That hurts my feelings. Somebody would be like, bah,
Yeah.
Or you're gone. You're out. If you didn't brought up that, oh man, that hurt my, you'd be gone.
Well, see, and I think like social media.
You're gone. Like you would be gone. Like, see you later. I mean, we had time with it. That is one thing, like we talked about one time. When we came over, Westside, Lou was really still in the building lifters. Building them. And starting them young and teaching how this stuff works. That first year I came over and didn't talk. I mean, I kept my mouth shut. I learned from everybody. I just went and watched and took it all in. Mm-hmm. And then after that first year, then I started talking to Lou and asking some questions. And, and he would, Lou, you get him talking, dude, he'll talk your ear off and it'll give you all this information. I remember the old phone over there. People would call old Westside. Lou'd stay over there on the damn phone for 45 minutes just talking to Joe Blow, God knows, because you could just, back then he'd call like, I don't know,
it was a 614 number. Yeah. It was in Powerlifting USA.
Just call that. That was to the gym. Hey, what's up? Another funny story is, I don't know if anybody's told you this. So I'm in there one time. I said, oh, God. So Grit's like, hey, somebody's on the phone for you. I'm like, what the hell? I get on there. I'm like, who would be calling me? So I'm like, yeah. You guys say, you big muscular guy? I'm like, yeah. I don't know what this is. And then they go in this thing, Sticky Fingers Productions. It was an adult porn industry. They would call to get guys to be in the adult shoots. And I'm like holding the phone. I'm like, oh my God, is this for real? And Grit's like, they got you. And I'm like, but it was legit. Like it was legit. It was a legit thing out of Columbus. It was called Sticky Fingers Productions, and they would call in there because you could just find, and they just call these random things. And I'm super young, naive, and I'm like, what the hell? And they're just laughing because I guess they used to call there often. I never answered the phone, man. I'm like, fuck that, man. I'm not touching that phone. I'm not getting my.
See, what cracks me up is like back when I very first started at Westside, you wasn't allowed to have any cameras or anything in the gym.
Nothing.
And what I'm trying to figure out is there's all these pictures from Demorest Road, and I want to know where they came from because I've never I trained there for 3 years and never seen a camera.
That's one.
But there's pictures of like us training and stuff.
I meant to bring that stuff. I got a bunch of pictures from all the old guys lifting.
Oh wow.
And videos, and I meant to bring those over here.
Digitize. That'd be huge because that's where.
And I'm gonna give me about a week or so because I want to make sure I get all of them. And they're just old, pictures, and I got videos of. I got some of old LOUIE's lifting, and I don't know who's on some of these tapes. I mean, it was
because Lou told us there was no pictures, and then one day Doris comes up with 3 Nike shoe boxes.
Yeah,
really.
And I think
It must
some
have
for
been,
her,
yeah.
some are from I think Bob Cole's dad may have took some. And then from I think Eskil took a bunch. But they're all
God, that guy get on my last nerve. That son of a bitch.
every podcast, Eskil, if you're listening, you have annoyed everyone so far.
Yeah.
There has been one non-Eskil story.
I love Eskil. I mean, I really did.
Yeah.
Like, he was a great guy. He really was. Great training partner. He was everything. Man, he'd fire him. He'd just get on. I don't know what it was about him.
he could talk shit.
Yeah.
He was a good shit talker for sure.
Yeah, and then he just
Because I never took any pictures or anything. At one point in time, I laugh about this. I finally found a piece of the chalkboard that had my name on it in the Westside versus the World movie. But I never, I was in 3 spots of that board at one point and never took a picture of it.
Yeah.
The first one I took off was Chuck's total. He had 2176 and I did 2200 at the Nationals. But Lou, on my very first visit here, had explained to me how important that board was. And there's the sign above the board that says, for people not the little sign he had written about the fucking geeks and not touching it.
Yeah.
And so I went 3 weeks and I never put my name on the board. And I remember Chuck coming in on a Friday and he's like, dude, when are you going to change your name? When are you going to put your stuff on the board? And at that time, Chuck was the man. He was the guy that everybody was, he was basically what you would picture Westside Barbell to be like, is a monster like him. And I said, well, I don't think we're supposed to touch the board. And he goes, well, you earned a spot, so you get to put your name on there.
New chalk.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I said, well, and honestly, I mean, I don't know. I said, you seem kind of like you're like the icon here, and I don't really want to step on any toes. So, and he's like, nah, dude, you took me out. You have to put your name up there because then I get to come after you. And I was like, all right. And I said, well, what do you do? And he come over, he handed me a paper towel and a piece of chalk. He said, you just change it. He said, you get your name on that board, you got to put your name up there. So then I took his name. And then the next one I took off was, I took LOUIE's 920. I squatted 931 in Chicago and took that off. And the only thing, he never said, hey, good job, nothing. He's like, it's about fucking time. That's all he said. I'm glad somebody finally took that name off there. That's ridiculous. I'm like, I've been trying to take it off there for almost a year. What are you talking about? And then I had the bench. I took Kenny's name off when I benched at the APF seniors. He had 701. I benched 705 at the seniors. But I never had any pictures of it. I never had any. So I can tell you I was on the board.
Yeah. That's 3 big names to take off the board too.
Yeah. At that time it was huge for me. It was
huge time. It was very competitive then. Everybody was everybody was competitive.
Well, because when I beat Travis at the APF seniors, Chuck was just wound up. He was ready to he was super excited about that. And then Travis never competed again.
Yeah.
He went to do an Olympic lifting or something. Yeah. He never,
Yeah, there's a lot
I was well, why would he leave? Why would he just leave the sport like that?
What was more fun, going to meets or training in the gym?
For training at the gym.
Yeah. I remember when we was all in, what was that, the meet in New York?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Like George or something.
Yeah, it was at that time, Greg was here.
Yeah, there was.
Winning was here. Zach did the meet? Did Zach do
that? I think so.
And then I did it. But there was a whole handful of us that had trained together, and because there were so many of us doing the same flight, it was almost like we were doing a workout at home, And the European judges guys that were doing they did not like the fact that we were in each other, we were talking shit to each other And I getting in, like we were almost getting in fights and
there
stuff
was
with each other
multiple times
at the meet because it felt like a training session for us, you know, and we're just like, you know, fuck you, motherfucker. You know, and it was just back and forth. And it was.
But that was how it was when you train.
Yeah.
You know, the meets, you got to talk as much
like
trash. You know, when you're, like I said, the meets, there wasn't much trash talking, but, you know, in the gym, man, there's shit all day long. I mean, I wish it'd be fun. I mean, I understand why people video stuff now. It'd be fun. I'd love to see I got some of us or benching video stuff that we did in Newark. You know, I just turn a video camera on and video that stuff. But I'd like to, you know, it'd been cool to keep some of that stuff just to see, you know, now a lot of our stuff because, I mean, we were doing some, you know, big weights.
I guess the most important part was you were there.
Yeah,
that's a big thing that a lot of people never understand or feel.
You can't like I've tried to tell people. You know, people always ask, "Oh man, didn't you train at Westside?" Blah 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 blah. You know, yeah, I did. Yeah, what was it like? You know, well, you had to be there. I can't compare it to anything else. Like me and him, you know, when we trained together at a couple other gyms after we left here, it still wasn't the same.
No.
And it wasn't remotely the same. You walked into that gym and it was like, even here, you know, at this gym too, it was, I don't even know what you call it. Like it was just, you were very privileged to be here. Mm-hmm. You know, all those years I trained here, never paid a dime. You know, Lou took care of all that stuff and did all that stuff. So you felt like you owed him, first of all. You know, he let you train in his gym. So, you know, it was a respect thing. Mm-hmm. One thing that I can say is when we were there, I think we were still a very close team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very close. Everyone was still, even though you had the morning and the night crew, you still helped each other at the meets. Mm-hmm. What I saw coming when I was leaving here and when we've put on meets, you guys have come down to those meets in Newark. They're always like, I'm like, who's helping you guys? I don't know, man. I hope somebody shows up to help. That was one thing that us guys, the Newark guys and Gritter and them, we always made sure we went to meets that we could help each other, okay? Mm-hmm. You know, he did a meet in New York. The following week, I did a meet in York, Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
So you can't be worth a damn if you ain't got people going to help you at the meets. I can tell you that. You know, you're used to your handout guy. They know how to handle you. I only like Joe really only being around me when I lifted. You just get used to certain people. You know, I Gritter and Bob, those guys, I like those guys always to be around me. You know, I didn't want no geeks around me, man. You didn't want those guys. They don't train with you. They don't know what you're doing. I don't need some guy sitting over there telling me what I'm doing wrong that's never seen me train. Mm-hmm. Okay, Joe could pick something out like, dude, all you got to do is lift your head up out of the bottom. Okay, that's what I'm going to do, come out of the bottom. He trained with me. He knew exactly what he was looking for. When I worked with Joe, I knew exactly what he was doing. You know, he needed to get his head up a little bit when he pulled a deadlift or pull himself down a little further. You know, that's what he just needed to do, and boom, it popped out. You know, we were all coaches over here. You know, we all helped one another. And, you know, even when me and Joe have helped several guys over the years. I mean, dang on, we've helped many guys. You know, he would see something in them, I'd see something in them, and tell them little things. You know, focus on this. You know, push your knees out a little harder, whatever, the little cues, you know. That's what I've noticed with online stuff. You can coach it, but when you're there, it's like a football coach. A football coach can't coach, you know, from an iPad. He's got to be right there on the field and calling that. That's somehow the coaches now, you know, they got to be there, you know. The lifter's out there doing what he needs to be doing, but you might just see something, he's just off just that little bit. And you got to figure out what's he doing wrong, okay? Is his knees coming at the bottom? Is, you know, when he's benching, is his elbows popping out? Or, you know, little things like that. And that was one thing that me and Joe, we could see these lifters and help those guys. And, you know, like I said, we took Tim. We took Tim and Zach, you know. I don't know, what Zach squat? 1050?
1050.
1050.
Jeez.
Tim squatted a grand. He squatted a grand, you know. And, you know, those are just local guys. That's what, when I was at Westside, it was local people, man. It was like local, like, okay, Newark, we're an hour away. But it was local. It was local guys. And everybody built each other up.
And that's what it seemed, you tested out strength of character first, and if you could last, then the strength would come with it. Then it got to a point where everyone was so strong and then people who came in who developed strength somewhere else. So they might be strong, but they didn't have that character.
Exactly.
And that
you're right.
seemed to have a lot of conflict.
Yes.
And
For me, it did a lot.
because you didn't like earn your dues. You just because you're strong doesn't mean you're strong for the gym.
Well, I came up here one day on a Friday morning. I'd taken a day off work. I come up. I wanted to buy some bands and stuff because I was starting to help my kids and stuff, training my kids in my basement, and I needed some stuff. And I come up here, and I always try to sneak up once in a while just to say hi to him, and because, I mean, like I always say, like I have, like you're never going to replace your dad. Number one, it's never going to happen. But like my dad was like he's a minister. He's a pastor of a church. So it was like having a devil and an angel all the time with me. You got the Westside side of me, and then you got my dad's side of me. So I always had Lou and my dad all the time. And that's probably the two most influential men I've ever had as a, growing up from a kid to an adult. And, my wife always says, she always laughs and was like, wonders how different of a person I would be if I would have never came to Westside. Like, she's like, because, literally for 14 years, we never would go. We was not allowed to go on a vacation because I wasn't missing workouts. If we did go on vacation, it had to be right after a meet because I was going to always take a week off to rest. So you had to plan it for right after that. Don't, just if they're training for a meet, I got to help them train. So for 14 years of my life, we never planned vacations. We never, and I got a lot of kids. So, you got a lot of stuff going on. But, I always laugh because people are just, they don't understand what it, like back then, what you had to dedicate yourself to be here. Like it was no, there was just no rhyme or reason to, why you would miss workouts. Like Lou used to get pissed at me because in the summertime, like I'd always chill out. Like I'd always I'd work out and I train hard, but I hate lifting in the summer. I hate doing meets in the summertime. So like fall, like cooler months for me was like, I just like, and then, and I could never understand why he'd get mad at me because he drag raced cars and I drag raced motorcycles. So he would get so mad at me about my motorcycle all the time. I'm like, Lou, your car is way faster than my bike. Like, why are you mad at me about this? You can die on that damn motorcycle is what he'd tell me. I'm like, it's a
different. Lou was a great training partner too. I mean,
What was that like?
That was I missed training. I mean, he was intense as shit. I mean, he loved to run his mouth nonstop at you.
He would talk.
Which is awesome. Shit. I mean, I think I learned some of my shit talk from him.
Yeah.
So, but I never squatted with him. We benched together. But he was always pushing me, and that's he just would find that part in you, and he would push you on that, and I think he would try to break you.
Yeah.
But he was a good guy. I mean, good trainer.
He was my first squat partner. Like when I came up here, him and Stafford were my first group, and I remember we were both getting ready. Me and John was supposed to be doing it was Dave's IPA meet, and we were supposed to be getting ready for it. And for whatever reason, John had some second thoughts about, his blood pressure was a little high and he was stressing out and he was just, he was worked up about it. So he decided he wasn't doing the meet, but he couldn't tell Lou he wasn't doing the meet. So he just didn't come to work out. He just didn't come to the gym. And Lou, I remember we were supposed to be doing, we were starting week 1 of Circuit Max, and we were getting ready and we were doing our first week of the blue-green bands and this wave. And Lou was so pissed that John didn't come. And I knew Lou was hurt. His shoulder was hurting him at that point, is when he first hurt his shoulder.
Once he started injuries piled up.
He was so mad that, so I'd already ran it by Chuck because they were doing the same meet. If I could just be the 4th guy and just train with them, because I knew there's no way Lou physically is going to be able to push himself. He's going to get hurt is what's going to happen. And, he was already like, not backing out of workouts, but, you could just tell something in his arm was not right. He couldn't hold the bar right. He was like half passing out and stuff. And we're like, what the fuck's going on? Like he racked the bar the one time and he just flopped back down to the box. Like he knocked himself out. Like he was out cold.
Yeah.
And I think that honestly scared John. I think that John's having some blood pressure issues. This happens the week before, and then he bails.
Yeah.
So, I talked to Chuck about it, like ran it by him to see, because him, Big Mike, I can't remember who else was with Chuck. It was Mike and Chuck and someone else was doing it, but Mike and Chuck were doing the Nationals too. So I was just going to do it with them. And Lou was like, fuck that. He's like, you have a training partner in this motherfucker. This is who you train with. This is who you push with.
You did.
You know, blah, blah, blah. So he tries to go. And he unracks. I remember we were using 415 and a blue green for our first week. And he unracked it and passed out like 2 times unracking it. And he got so mad. Like, I remember he was so mad and he wouldn't. He looked at me and he just like, I thought he was going to punch me in the face. I really did. I'm thinking, I didn't fucking do it, you know? I was like, Lou, I'm good, man. I mean, I'm not, you know? And he's just like, but I'm not. And he just like, I thought he was going to hit me. I was like, so I was ready. Like, I'm ready like to defend myself because I was like, he's going to punch me in the face.
That used to piss him off
because he was clenched up and he was like so mad. And then he walked out of the building. And he was walking back and forth out in the parking lot because the door was propped open. You could see him walking back and forth a few times. And I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Do I keep going or what? And Chuck's like, just jump in with us, dude. And I'm like, I'm just going to go because I'm already warmed up. So I just did my sets. But when you're doing your sets by yourself and then you got Chuck running the monolift, you don't get no break. Like, it's like, I thought I was going to die.
There was no breaks, man. There was.
But Lou, he hurt his arm. His shoulder ended up something tore or something in there, and he ended up having it looked at a couple of times. But you know, he was never like, he was furious, man. I mean, and to this day, he'll blame Stafford. Like he would blame Stafford for that
injury.
Like he'd tell him, you know, I would have never hurt my shoulder if John would have showed up to work out. You know, he'd say it like years later. I'm like, I don't know if that was the case. I remember you were passing out, dude.
He had me come out because they had some football coaches or something, man. You know, I was a bigger guy and, you know, 6'6", and we used to always argue about the bands when you squat. And you say the same thing, you know. I'm like, dude, I'm stretching these sons of bitch. I get more attention sitting in the box than you do standing it up. But he's got me up here with these football coaches. We were on Demorest, and this is before we put all the dumbbells on the monolift. So we put these black bands on, big, thick. I mean, they were huge. Put that thing on there, and I'm like, all right, man. I go to stand that son of a bitch. That monolith flips. Starts to fall over. Oh, shit. His eyes got about this big. He thought that thing was going to take us all out. And that's when he started just loading the dumbbells on. Because I'm like, I got all these football coaches are in there watching, and I got to stand that thing up, and the whole damn thing starts to lift up. And then I just kept running my mouth to him. I'm like, what? I don't get that much attention. The damn monolith's picking up, you know? So that was just Lou. He just know how to get on your skin and things like that.
How, before we started, you said there was a meet in this gym. I didn't know that there was. What was that?
Well, push-pull meet, wasn't it?
Was that the one and
Because we
only?
had Zach Cole on the mic.
I got married. I think that was that weekend I didn't come to it because I was leaving. But these guys,
I drank a bottle of Captain Morgan's at his wedding. I drove up here from Newark the next morning because I was supposed to judge the meet. So I'm driving up here drunk, and I was like, if I get pulled over, man, this is it. I'm going to go to jail for a DUI. This is because I am. And I remember getting here, and Doris was talking to me, and she's like, wow. She's like, you must have had a good time last night. I'm like, I'm still having a good time. What are you talking about? She goes, I'm going to go get you some coffee and some Gatorade. Yeah. So she went down to the store down here and got me a bunch of drinks and stuff. And I come back. I remember sitting there, and I remember Todd Brock, I red lighted him on a bench because he never put his ass on the bench. Like he unracked it with it off, and he benched and put it, and it never touched. I'm like, I turned the red light, and he comes over and shakes my head, and I was like, but I remember sitting in the chair that day, and Lou was trying to pull something, some kind of PR or something he was going for some, I can't remember what was it, it was like 715, sure. I think he was trying to pull, and he gets the wire brush out of the chalk bowl. And he puts it in the front of his, he had old canvas briefs at the time. And I was like, Lou, you got to pull, I'll get that. You don't have to try to bend over and fuck with that. He goes, oh, I know what I'm doing. I'm like, well, I know, but you got all that gear on. You're not going to be able to clean that bar off. I ain't worried about the damn bar. I'm like, all right. Well, I'm hungover, so I don't have no clue what's really happening. And I just remember looking up, and he stands back by where the white rack is now. He stands back there, starts looking up at the ceiling, talking to something. I don't even know what he was saying. And he takes that brush out and just starts bashing his freaking head with it, like over and over. And I was just like, I'm like, am I drunk? Is this
Blood.
something? I mean, what is going on here? But he's hitting it with the wire side of the brush. So he goes down, he reaches up, and he pulls sumo. So he sets up, grabs the bar, and he starts leaning back. And as he starts leaning back, it looked like connect the dots on his head. Like, and it just blood just started pouring out of his head from all these little holes he'd punched in his head with that wire brush. I was like, what the fuck just happened?
I remember we were talking about a Gritter story. So 9/11 had just happened. And we were getting ready for a bench meet. We had a bench meet that was supposed to be around that time. Well, he calls down there and says, they're like, it's canceled because, 9/11 and all that stuff. He calls down there and says, you guys will be having a meet. I don't care where it's at. I got my lifters ready to go.
Well, he was trying to break Kellum's record thing.
Yeah.
The 6:07.5. I remember.
Should we
this.
tell this story?
Huh?
So we're down there. Anyway. So
Jesse had benched 6:05.
yeah.
And Gritter wanted to pass him on the top 100 list. So Gritter had one arm that was really
one arm was
jacked
real
up
bad.
and one was pretty good. So he loads 6:05, and we have to put a 2.5 on his good arm.
Yeah. So
But
it
to
makes
get
it
these people
607.5.
To get these people at this meet to understand this was like, it
Oh my
was
God. We're like,
you
just
were
put a
building
2.5. And they're
rocket
like,
ship or
what
something.
are you talking about? We're like, we just need a 2.5 on that side. That's all we need. Well, I don't know
He
if we
said
can
6:05. I was like, it's going to be 6:07.5.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, that's not even a weight. I was like, it is if you put that 2.5 on there. It was like we were literally building a car.
Yeah, that was funny because he's just like so wound up and he's like irritated because they canceled the meet. It was one of the biggest, and it wasn't that. It was just the point that we had trained and we were ready to do a meet. He just wanted to get it in because we were all going. There was quite a few of us that went down there.
Well, the hotel that they had
Pittsburgh
put
or
away, they
something.
wouldn't.
Yeah.
They wouldn't let us take. They wouldn't let us go. They wouldn't let the meet happen. They put them out. So we ended up doing it. It was Rob Capozzolo or whatever.
Down at his gym. So
and he had it at his gym in the thing. And they
I
just
remember
moved a bunch of shit and pulled a bench out.
And I'm sure Lou's talked about this. I mean, when I first started here, we were going down to a trailer park down in Wintersville. Oh my God, that was a freak. I mean, we went to so many meets. We went down and had a meet at Gritter's building where he had his heating and cooling.
Yeah.
He did a meet in there. I mean, that is one thing back then. Like when we first started Westside, you couldn't lift at the big meets unless you were legit. Like now, like he just would let you go to the nationals and stuff. You had to have a legit total before you could go to some of those meets. So you'd be finding meets all over the place trying to get your total up, get your lifts up and everything. So that was a big thing. And back then, if you're a Westside, you had to compete. Didn't matter. You either competed or you're out. Mm-hmm. So there was no like, I don't know if I'm going to compete. No, you competed or.
I remember when the WPO first came, when they first came out, he had Kidder had some guys fall out of the Arnold. They wasn't going to do the Arnold. So, and I had just totaled 2,200. I had just done my 2,200. And he was in Columbus for stuff for the Arnold. And he came over to the gym and he talked to Lou and wanted Lou to let me do the Arnold for the 42s because he had two guys that had fell out and he wanted me to do it. And I decided, because like I had totaled as much as I was like right there with their totals. So he was like, he told Kidder, he's like, well, he didn't qualify. And he goes, well, we'll just make an exception just to get him in. And he goes, well, the way we do it here is you have to qualify. Everybody else here that's doing the meet qualify. Mm-hmm. And Kidder and Lou had already told him no, basically. And then he came to the gym anyway that night, that Monday night, to ask me if I wanted to do it. And he caught me, and Lou wasn't here yet. But I asked him, I said, did you talk to Lou about this? And he's like, well, you're doing the meet. It ain't Lou doing the meet. And I said, yeah, but I'm representing Lou's place.
Yep.
This is his gym. So I'm not going to say anything. And about that time, Lou got there, and he come walking in. And I said, Lou, he wants me to do the Arnold. Are you good with that or no? And he goes, I already fucking told you once, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, I guess you got your answer, and I wouldn't do it. I was like, I'm not doing it, But and that's the difference between like then and the gym that was like when Greg and all those guys were here. Not that they were bad lifters. They were all strong as fuck. I mean, they were all crazy strong dudes. But they didn't have the respect to what this place that like if they would have showed up and asked them, they're jumping it. They're going right in because it became to me, it was more selfish. They were like, everybody was so about their self and not about what was going to make the entire gym look better. Mm-hmm. It was, what can I do for me? It was a me mentality versus, and I noticed that like like me and Tim and Zach, we would be in here training, and even with Chuck, guys would like, we was the last group to go, and
No one would help.
we'd get done on Friday. We'd help everybody through the morning. You know, Chuck had to leave for work.
Yeah.
But like Winning and those guys, they would go to lunch.
Yeah.
And then Winning was bringing dudes back in here and training them like on the side, you know, but wouldn't help us get through our
The team aspect started falling out.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it might have got better. I don't know, but the team thing, because now I don't see it in powerlifting. There's no teams now that come in. I mean, back when I was, you know, you had the guys from Cleveland,
the Big Iron guys.
Yeah, you had Big Iron. You had some guys from down the Pittsburgh area. You know, Black's gym up there. When I first got in, you know, it was kind of funny. It was like gangs all showing up.
Yeah.
You know, everybody'd show up in their gear, you know, wearing the T-shirts, and you look around like, oh, yeah.
Well, see, when I first came here, like the black T-shirts was like everybody, they were just available. Like, you could get those. But like to get a red one, you had a Total Elite. Was I asked for a red one, and Lou's like, do you have an Elite Total? And because I just like red. Red for me is just, that's my, and I was like, yeah, actually, I Total Elite at the meet before I came here. And he was like, he looked at Gritter, and Gritter goes, he totaled 1950 at that meet in West Virginia. And he goes, all right, well, then you could, because when they used to wear the collars, they had the polo shirts.
Yep.
Yeah.
I got
Like
one
Todd
of those.
Brock and those guys, they all wore those. I wasn't here for those.
Yeah. Somehow I got one. I don't know.
The yellow and black ones were world record. People had to break a world record to get those. I remember that.
Yeah.
It takes a lot to, you know, do this, like to stay here for that long,
Yeah.
you know, and you know, when Chuck and you got, you know, I mean, Dave Tate was insane. Like him and Dave would like fight like they were two little kids, man. I mean, they would just go. And then if you pissed Chuck off, you were going to pay for it the rest of the workout. Like if Chuck got mad, it was over. I mean, you were going to die. I mean, he was going to break you physically. I came up here and benched with him on a Sunday one time, did some speed work with him, and I had rode my motorcycle here. And I had a crotch rocket, so you got to lean on those. It's a 45-minute ride from here to my house, and it took me 4 hours to get home.
I can
Because
remember
he killed
workouts.
my arm so bad, I had to keep pulling over and just sitting on the side of the freeway.
I remember
couldn't ride.
multiple times driving home and just having to get out because your back was so pumped up. Your lower back would be just so jacked. You just had to get out of your vehicle. And people probably drive by going, what in the
What is this
hell
guy
is that guy
doing?
doing that?
Like I'm sitting on them. I'm sitting
Yeah,
on a
because me and him,
motorcycle,
you know,
it's
we'd
like-
ride shit. We'd pick each other up and drive
we
up
carpooled
here
for a while.
Yeah, for a long time, many years. So
What are some of the most things or aspects you're proud of? Looking back on everything you've done on Westside.
well, I tell you what, I started here as a boy and I left a man. I will say that. So I would say that's it. I was like, you know, I came in here a very naive young kid, and I left as a man.
Yeah.
And I'm glad. I'm glad that they taught me that. Like, I'm glad, you know, my body's beat to shit. I will say our guys, the people, we all, you know, beat our bodies up. I mean, we learned, you know, the bands. We were first using the bands, and we were loading all that stuff up, and, you know, but I wouldn't take anything back. I mean, I guarantee there ain't nothing I would change. You know, met some great guys. You know, still hang out with, you know, good guys. But that for me, that's probably the biggest thing. Just that the intensity. I just liked it. I still got it to this day. I mean, you can ask people. I play cards and get just as intense as I was lifting weight. I mean, it's kind of sad I could get like that, but you know, and it's funny because probation officer, you know, for so many years, you know, I took some of this stuff I learned here, how to control my emotions, and did that with my work. So, you know, that, you know, yeah, some of the cool things lifting, yeah, it was cool. But I learned a lot just to being a man, being a person, how to build people, how to, you know, that's where I think a lot of people break in this sport now.
Yeah.
You got to be mentally, and I think they did it here. I mean, we both, you know, they tried to break you, and it made you a man. I mean, you either, you know, and I know it's just lifting weight, but you can do it. You can take that and rotate it so much in life to different things, and because this is a hard ass sport, man. Powerlifting's a hard ass sport. I mean, you may go a year and not PR. You know, I don't see people. I don't know the mentality now if people could do that, because now it's a me happy world now. You know, but we were always chasing for. I didn't give a shit if it was a 5 pound or 10 pound PR. You're always trying to get that PR, you know, and that's just what you did. So that's what I got out of Westside. That's probably it. And you know, great times, and I could probably still talk for another 4 hours.
Yeah,
because once we start talking, man, my brain starts working. I'm like, oh shit, I forgot about this and this and this, and you know, this guy did this, and you know, some guy damn breaks his ribs, and next thing I know, he's doing cartwheels down the damn hotel hallway one day, and I'm like, what the fuck? I just saw that dude just, you know, legitimately broke his rib squatting. So, you know, just wild stories, you know, and that, you know, just being young, and my brain doesn't work as good as it used to. But once we start talking, it's just like, man, I need to start writing shit down. So when I get, because this is
but it's impossible to get
times.
out years.
Yeah.
There's so many years of
That's
stuff.
what was amazing
You can't
about
get it
Lou.
out.
You know, he could remember shit, man. Like he could remember stuff. But it was always great. Like I said, I loved hanging out with Lou because we could just exchange stories and talk about stuff. You know, and he'd be like, oh shit, I forgot all about that. You know, just going to these meets and seeing some of these guys. And you know, I remember seeing Gary Frank for the first time. He was this big son of a bitch just walking out like, you know, 1,000 some, maybe 1,100 pounds, just walking shit out. And I'm like, holy shit, you know?
Yeah.
Just strong ass men. So,
He didn't walk it out. He sprinted it out.
yeah, basically. I
He
thought he was going to fall off.
stomped
I thought he was going to fall
He
off the
almost
edge of
walked
the-
off the back of the WPO the first time. He was crazy.
But yeah, so that, you know, for me, yeah, that's what it was. Westside was.
I think I was like, I mean, I was young when I came here, so you know, I was I was fairly sheltered as far as like, you know, being around an intense environment goes. But like I learned a lot from Lou. I learned a lot from him, and I think the biggest thing is being able to observe somebody and just pick out details of what, you know, you can work on, what you can't, and just be able to see it like without even, and know how to coach it to fix it, you know. And that was you know, the one thing that that Lou, I don't even know if he realized he was teaching you to do it, to be honest with you. I don't know. But you were always critiquing each other to the point that, you know, it was like you got to see what it meant, you know, what it looked like the right way and wrong way, and you could find the details of it. And, you know, he really and I don't know if he meant for people to be to learn to coach that way. I really don't, but I mean, I remember when Anthony Oliveira came here the first couple times. I mean, he looked like dog shit squatting. I mean, it was terrible. But just the way he would do certain things, and I told him the one day he worked up and squatted like 850 or 900 in here one day, and I didn't even know what I was here for, to be honest with you. And I was back spotting him, and I told him, I said, you start fixing a few things, and you're going to squat something huge at some point, you know. And I mean, he's ended up squatted over 1,100 now. So it's like, you know. Lou would never, like, he never really looked at you as like what you were doing right then. It's like what he thought you could do later. You know, it was never, you know, and I think, unfortunately, I mean, I think sometimes for my kids, they get the Westside version of me, you know, and when I'm coaching them and I'm working with them, you know, but, you know, when they go to practices or they go somewhere, they're like, holy crap, these people are soft, man. And they know it, you know, and it's just, you know, like my daughter plays college softball, and, you know, she knows, like, some of the girls' feelings got hurt because the coach yelled at them the one day about something, and they were all upset about it, and they're in their little group chat whining about it. And then she sends out this big text message about basically just suck it up and move on, man. Yeah. You know, we either got to practice and get better, or you know, you can't cry about this now. What are you doing? You know, and she told me, she's like, Dad, I felt like I was you talking for a minute. And I said, you can thank Lou for that. That's what I always tell her, you know, anything the kids do that I'm like, you know, I mean, this is what I was taught, you know, it's not, you know, it's and I mean, my wife's like, sometimes she's like, you know, my one boy, he's 8, you know, and he's just playing coach pitch baseball and stuff. And I'll talk to him sometimes when we'll be hitting off the tee, and I'll tell him stuff, and I get really aggressive, not like yelling at him, but I'm getting really into it. And she's like, he's 8, you got to back it down. And I'm like,
I know, it's just hard to do. That's hard to do.
But that's what I told my, you know, I had a parent come to me at a travel softball game one time, and she could not believe the way I talked to my daughter. She just could not believe it. It completely appalled her. And she just went on and on about how, there's no way I should talk to a teenage girl like this and blah, 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 and all these different things. And I let her finish, and I didn't interrupt her. I remember Lou doing this one time to somebody it was at the APF seniors in Chicago or in Detroit. And this guy was running his mouth, and he just stood there and let him. And he's like, "Are you done?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "All right. I really don't give a fuck what you think." And he walked away. And I was like, this woman's just berating me with like her opinion of how I should talk to my kid. And I told her, I said, I let her finish, and I said, are you finished? And she's like, well, I was like, well, I'm going to talk when you're going to let me talk. And she said, well, I just don't understand. I was like, well, first of all, it's my kid. This is something that this is nothing that's new to her. It's not like I'm doing it just because there's people here. I do this at home. I do this wherever, and this is how I talk. This isn't alarming her. This isn't something that's going to be a shock to her. And I said, I'm preparing her because she tells me she wants to go play college softball. So I'm getting her ready. So when she's got a college coach screaming in her face one day, ripping her ass, there's nothing going to surprise her. And she's like, well, I was like, well, when you pay for her pitching lessons and you do all these things, then you can have an opinion, but until then you might want to walk away. Yeah. And I said, because I'm done talking.
Yeah.
And that was it.
You learn a lot from just from being up here. You learn just a lot in just general, just life. I learned a lot from Gritter. I learned a lot from Bob Coe. I learned a lot from my training partners, there's a lot you learn, and you just kind of, pass it on is what I want to do now. That's what I continue to kind of do now. And I'm always, lifting or whatever I need to do. I pass on just knowledge and, just how we, to get to that, everybody wants, nowadays it's somebody squats 800, on my road to 1,000. Dude, come on, man. You don't know how this shit works, man. So don't sit there and tell me I'm on my road to 1,000 after I just do 800. That road,
you might want to be on the road to 800.
That's a long road, and I'm gonna tell you, there's a lot of stuff that happens in those days. So I get irritated by that, but hey, whatever, man. Everyone's got their own boat; they can do what they want with it. But I just get irritated at some of the stuff now. Like they just think it's so easy, and they don't understand how much work you put in. The guys that have done it know. The people that haven't, they can talk shit all they want, but they don't know what it's like, to get injuries and have to work around them and do this and do that. He's torn his pec off. I got a torn tricep, just had my shoulder replaced. There's all these different things. You could give all excuses in the world. But like I learned from Lou, man, if he could have just got one more time on that platform, one more time, that's all he wanted to do. Hell, he's wanted to pull a deadlift. He didn't give a damn. Now I've gotten that mentality. Man, I still got something left in me, I can still pull something. I still can, do something. I don't know what else to do. That's what's sad is, I've been doing this so long, sometimes you're like, damn, maybe, but like I said, wouldn't change it for nothing. So,
well, the big upside from you guys putting yourself through trials and tribulations of here is that the injury rate went down hugely because you guys went to the absolute
I've heard that from Lou multiple times.
Max, and that's why it was so important for him to write and to pass on the education, so it didn't go to waste. That's why he never stopped, and that's why we have the business side is not just to make money; it's to make money to give out the education. That was the whole.
And I'm grateful for that. I think it's great. I love that you guys can still. And I hope it continues. Selling the Westside shirts now. When I first went down, I'm like, what the? I worked my ass off to get this T-shirt. Wait, now I can buy one for $20.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it still goes on because when people see it, and I know my nephew, he just saw a boy literally across the street have one on, and he kind of got like me, went over and said, how'd you get that shirt,
Yeah.
Well, he said, I ordered it,
Yeah.
Which it's kind of cool now, when you're older, I trained there. I was there. I was one of those guys. I knew Lou, I knew these guys that you see on all the videos and things now. I trained with those guys. That's the reason, I was talking about I got a bunch of pictures and things. I'm going to try to get them up to you and some old videos and, back from 20 years ago, probably some of those are. So, I like the business thing now because we built it. I'm not going to lie. We were over here busting balls. We did it. When we went out, we were cocky sons of bitches. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, damn right I did. I busted my ass. You know, everybody's like, it was all this. No, our asses were in the gym 4 to 5 days a week, working your ass off. I wasn't sitting behind some bar stool drinking beer, talking to some drunk dude going to tell me, man, I remember back when I did 300 pounds. I knew a guy in high school that could bench fight. Bullshit, man. You weren't in there doing that. So, cockiness, Yeah, damn right we were cocky. Because you did it.
Yeah.
I didn't have to be cocky. He was cocky enough to make it.
You just did it. Just certain things just he gets fired up on some things. I get fired up on different things. So it just pisses me off.
I think we'll wrap it there, and hopefully we can do this again. Be great to get Tim over too.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we can reach out to them.
Get Tim and Zach.
We can get Tim
Yeah.
and Zach about 4. Like there could be some really good stories.
That'd be great.
Like we found Big Tim passed out in the lobby one time, and he thought he was in his hotel room. So that just shows you some of the maybe things that we've kind of corrupted those kids when they were younger. But they've grown up to be good guys, and proud of those guys what they did too. So
I truly appreciate the time for coming over, and can't wait to do this
thanks,
again.
Tom.
Thank you.